Hey guys, it's Terry with the worshipleaderblog.com, and today we'll be talking about confidence in worship leading, and more specifically, how to improve it. So, you feel like you're not very confident while leading worship. What do we do about it? Well, here are a few things you can do to help improve your confidence while leading worship. Strive to live a life that's free of sin. Okay, nobody's perfect, and we can't live a life that's completely free of sin. But one thing we can do is strive to get rid of the repetitive sin that we do willingly. If we want to be confident worship leaders, our minds should be focused on God and others and creating an environment where others can worship God easily. When our minds are engaged on how we should be living differently and on the things that we should not be doing, it's kind of hard for us to lead others to God. It's harder to make transitions. It's more difficult to flow in the Spirit, and not to mention, you're not connected to the source. Freeing ourselves of sin totally gets rid of this kind of thinking during a worship set. It allows our minds to be free and our spirits to be open to worship God. It also clears up some brain power so that we can focus on things that are more productive for the worship set. Another thing we can do to make ourselves more confident while leading worship is spend time with God before we go out to worship. I find that 100% of the time, if I've spent time with God before I go out, I'm less nervous, less anxious, and I'm more confident in leading others to God because I know I've connected with Him and I'm ready to hear from Him in that moment. Nothing gives more confidence in a worship set than knowing that you've connected with God, you're in sync with Him, and that you're not up there on your own capabilities alone. Connecting with God before we go out to worship gets us on the same frequency as Him so that we can be an extension of what He wants to do during the worship service. Have a backup plan. Now, it's best for our expressions of worship to come from within freely at the moment. But if you feel yourself saying, I don't think I'm confident enough for that yet, then it's not bad for you to know what you're going to say before you say it, to have a general idea of what will be going on. Think about it. If you tell God that you love Him and that He's good, and you know that you're going to tell Him before you do it, does that make it any less true? Of course it doesn't. If your heart's connected to Him, your mind's connected to Him, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Have a few things in the back of your mind that you want to tell God publicly and invite others to do it along with you. And when you get to a point where you don't know what to say, you don't know where things are going, use some of those things to fall back on. Also, when becoming a more confident worship leader, we need to practice. That's right, practice, practice, practice. If you're a new worship leader or feel you're not very confident, you probably have a lot of things going on upstairs during a typical worship set. This snowballs nervousness and anxiety. Save yourself some stress and error by knowing your material. You shouldn't have to think about most things like lyrics, melody lines, and ad-libs, along with everything else that comes along with a worship set. So save yourself that stress and practice. Know your material. You'll be a lot more confident when you know what's going on and you know where you're gonna go, and you don't have to think about those things because they come naturally. One more thing that makes us more confident as worship leaders is exposure. Just like anything else, the more you're in front of people doing a particular thing, the more confident and comfortable you will become at it. So any chance you get to be in front of people, to work on your craft, to lead worship, do it. Take the opportunity. Get the exposure. Like I said, the more you get in front of people, the more confident you'll become, the less stressful it'll be, and you'll find yourself improving with every step of the way. You'll get where you want to be. So let's recap this. Strive to live a life Strive to keep sin out of your life. Of course, I'm referring to repetitive, willful sin. Nobody can be perfect, but we can strive to be like Him. Spend time with God before you go out to worship. It gets your mind on God and His goodness and off of your worries. And it's a lot easier to lead people to God when you've connected with Him yourself. Have a backup plan. You don't want to be caught up there like a deer in headlights and not know what to say and not know what to express. So have a general idea of what you want to say to God publicly and just invite others to do that along with you. Practice. Practice takes the edge off. If you know what you're going to do before you do it and it becomes second nature, that's one less thing you'll have to worry about. Your mind can be engaged on other things like leading people to God, focusing your attention and your heart on Him, and not lyrics, not melody lines, and not ad-libs. And finally, exposure. The more exposure we get, the more we're in front of people, the better we become. It's a surefire way of becoming a more confident worship leader. So, I would like to know, what are some of the things that make you struggle with confidence while leading worship? And what are some of the things that you've done to overcome that? Leave a comment below. Being confident in worship leading ties directly in to our effectiveness in leading others to God. If we want to be great in pointing people to God, they must first connect with us. Over at theworshipleaderblog.com, I have an ebook called 2 Steps to More Effective Worship Leading. It's totally free to download, and it's a great resource in improving our effectiveness in leading worship. So go check it out. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Signing off.